Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Hi, everybody. This is Alice Emerson with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in Charleston metro area. And tonight we are talking about cleaning the clutter, which specifically deals with detoxification. And we mean that by detoxing your home, your body, your mind, body, spirit, the whole thing, which is a holistic conversation. We have with us some very special panelists that I'm very excited about, being together here, because I have this conversation personally quite often. But what I love is that we have a lot of medical and nutritional and doctors here that can have this conversation and really dive in deep. So Bettina Herbert with Gesundheit Carolina is here with us, and I want to introduce her, and then we'll go around and everybody give an introduction of yourself. But Bettina specifically is going to kind of give us a definite rundown on our food sources and how it's affecting us personally, both emotionally and physically, and then some of the things that, not only in education and awareness, but what we can do about it. So Bettina Herbert is here, and then I'm just going to quickly just go over a quick introduction and let you all introduce yourselves in detail. Julie Lynch Sasson, she's Dr. Julie, here known affectionately locally. She's a chiropractor and also a practitioner in NET, which is neuroemotional treatment, correct? Yes. Technique. Yes, technique. And she's going to talk about the emotional part of detoxification and how it's so important to address that as well when we're talking about detoxification. Again, a lot of people might think that this could have been just a discussion specifically on some people have different mindset about detoxification. It's not just, talking about drugs or alcohol. Like, this is our food source. This is our environment. This is our water sources, all of it. So this we're just touching on very briefly tonight, but this is a great discussion. We could do a series on this. Jane Dye is here. She is not only the Senior VP of our Charleston Metro Holistic Chamber of Commerce, she is also a registered nurse and a health coach. And she's going to talk to us about the cosmetic industry and the hidden toxins that are in our skincare and just things to be aware of. Toney Freeman is here. He and his wife Kelly have been on a journey as well. Toney Freeman is a professional bodybuilder, and on that journey, he has to really know how to understand the chemistry of the body, but also his personal journey has led him into really understanding the need for detoxification, and has a program that's the GR.I.T.System. GR.I.T., as it's also known as, and that's an internal transformation program that he has. Janelle Solomon is here. Hi, Janelle. She is traveling, but is joining us from the road. Thank you very much. And she does thermography. She's a certified thermographer, and she'll explain exactly what that can do. But personally, I have done the thermography with her as well, and it shows early indication and indicators of inflammation, which also indicators of disease, or disease, as some people like to say. Babette Gilbert-Teno is here with us as well. She won't be on camera, but her lovely voice and extreme amount of knowledge and expertise and experiences with us tonight. And Babette is a functional nutritionist, among other things. She is a gut health specialist, and she's written a book on leaky gut, and she is going to be here and helping us discuss also the need, what toxins do to our gut and the need to heal our gut, and how it all of these tie together. And personally, I am definitely an advocate of healing the gut and how it can actually affect everything emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I'm going to go right back to the beginning and go over to Bettina. So Dr. Herbert, I would love it if you would go ahead and tell us, introduce yourself a little bit more in detail, why you do what you do, and what you want to share with us tonight about even our food sources. We can start there, and then we'll get into a bit of the mold conversation as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. This is an honor, and I'm so happy to meet other like-minded providers here. I'm a second career physician, so what that means is people can read my handwriting. And I'm so Toney, my AMA board specialty is physical medicine and rehab, but I was fortunate enough to get a 1,000-hour fellowship with Dr. Andrew Weil at the University of Arizona, and then also get certified in the first class for the Institute for Functional Medicine, and then had a lot of experience in environmental medicine where I learned the concept of the total load. So we have huge amounts of DNA devoted to getting rid of toxins, but we've overloaded most of our capacity. And a lot of it has to do with how the food is processed, eating a lot more animal-based things than we might have been designed for, and what our processed food industry has done to us. So I really learned to start with the gut, because if you're going to detox anything, you have to have the exit ramps for the gut to get rid of it. So you take, toxins are stored in the fat. That's in ladies, we have a little more than gentlemen usually, but the brain is covered in fat. So whether it's organophosphates or a large toxin, I can't name by name because it's owned by a very rich company, where they spray and get taken up into the plants, and also spray the grains so they dry faster and can get to market faster. So all of these toxins have overloaded our system, and the poor liver has to take its regular housekeeping and get stuff out through the gut and the bladder. And this is very nutrition dependent. And if we're eating depleted food, such as the processed food, we don't have the nutrition to go through all the different phases of detoxification in the liver to get them out of our system. And then, of course, we absorb things through skin and hormone disruptors, and there are people who can talk to that. But I say it looks like a total load on an elevator, and an elevator doesn't have to be empty. We do not have to be completely free of toxins, but we can't have too many passengers. When you have elevator has more than it's rated for, it's not going anywhere. And so I always start with the gut. I won't tell you what they called me at the last clinic because I start there, but it's basically, if the gut's not happy, nobody's happy. And it's sort of like, if mama's, sorry to be gender specific, but if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. And
that's true. It's all true.
There's a lot of expertise here on this panel. So so the other thing about leaky gut is you only have one cell layer that corrals in all of these bacteria and a lot of the fungi and parasites and viruses we don't know about. So it's only one layer thick. So if that layer is damaged, then you get not only undigested food in your bloodstream where it doesn't belong and creates inflammation, but you get bacteria, and a lot of them just amp up inflammation in your whole system. And so the gut has to be taken care of first, so it'll be happy and can do the things it needs to do.
Thank you so much. And, you know, Bettina, there's something else that you had spoken about, which is definitely our addictive qualities, the addictive qualities of our food. And there's kind of a toxic overload in our food supply as well, which you touched on, which, you know, getting it quick to the shelves and how they have to dry things quickly. And just that education and awareness. I think the average person may not understand what they're grabbing when they're grabbing a processed food. So yeah, we had shared an article which was, you know,
the extraordinary science of addictive junk food. That was an excerpt of a book that was published in the New York Times Magazine in 2013, where in 1999 some of the top scientists and developers of processed food were recognizing the childhood obesity and diabetic epidemic starting, and they got together 11 of the CEOs of the major processed food companies, and basically the top one at General Mills, it was Mr. Sanger at the time, said people want what tastes good. And so he took Yoplait, which was unsweetened, and he put more sugar in it than a cup of Lucky Charms, and sales rocketed. So these foods don't have a dominant flavor the way like an avocado would, or some nuts, where you know when you've had enough, because the brain is supposed to register that I've had enough and I want to stop. There is no dominant flavor in these foods that are engineered to become addictive. So a Dorito, what is the dominant flavor? There is none. And potato chips are salt, fat, and mouthfeel. And they even designed how thick it should be, how many pounds of pressure to break the potato chip to make it most attractive.
Mm.
So the level of engineering is beyond belief, and our kids are, and our whole society is suffering from that need to make us addicted to our own foods that are causing damage and not health.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's brilliant marketing. Kudos to those that are making lots of money, but it's at our expense, right? So just being aware. It's not saying never eat a Dorito, and you know, or I don't, you know, I don't like to, but the toxic overload is really what we're talking about here. That elevator that you spoke of, you know, just to not overload the system. And so, yeah, it's brilliant marketing. It is engineered food. And I love how you talked about how the gut knows when to tell the brain to shut off, that it's full, it's had enough. So thank you for bringing that to our attention as well. So we talked about the food supply, and I know, you know, just specifically, Toney, I'm going to jump to you real quick because you do talk about, you know, in your GR.I.T. system, if you want to take a couple minutes and just introduce why you do what you do, you know, being a bodybuilder, and how you had to feed yourself specifically in order to design the body that would get you to the championship levels that you had, you know, achieved. But also in your personal journey on how you learned how some of that stuff was actually not so healthy, even though you look like a picture perfect of, you know, healthy person.
Oh, wow. I want to add something to what Bettina said about
Yeah,
processed
please.
food. A really good friend of mine, he lives in South Carolina, his name is Jimmy, and the way that he described what a processed food is, because I don't think people really, you know, put it in perspective. So your body's designed to break down and digest our food. So when a machine does that for you, processes the food for you, so when you consume it, it's already broken down into, you know, to amino acids and glucose and stuff like that, where your body's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? So it's like you don't really have a chance when you take it in. It's already a foreign substance. They strip all the nutrients out and then they spray vitamins back on so they can sell it legally as food. But I discovered something even crazier this weekend. I guess we'll talk about it in a second. But processed food is designed for pleasure, deliciousness, and you know, I used to diet for, you know, 12 to 25 weeks. And, you know, I'm a cook. I've been cooking since I was 7 years old. So I learned how to make healthy food taste good. So when I used to share my diet food with other bodybuilders, they used to be like, well, wow, why does this taste so great? I'm like, well, it's not my fault you don't know how to cook. I mean, you have to take your time to learn what spices do and palate and all that type of stuff. My mom taught me from a really young age. So I can take something and make it healthy and keep it healthy, and still be enjoyable, still be pleasurable. But that takes effort. There's a reason why, you know, I don't want to stray too far, but when you read the Bible and it talks about having to earn your food by the sweat of your brow, in other words, that means no microwave, no processed food. No, that's how we were designed. So we humans, we're smart. You know, we created all this stuff to make it easy and convenient and, you know, pamper us. We used to have to, I always say, you know, we're hunter gatherers, and if you had to hunt and gather every meal, how many meals a day would you eat? You know, we're programmed to eat 3 meals a day plus 2 snacks, or we're miserable, or we're deprived. And it's crazy how we still eat all that food. We're overfed and malnourished. And it's because of our food chain, just like Bettina was saying. And I'm starting to really, I've been geeking out, researching. I feel almost intimidated. I'm with these specialists and professionals. I am a professional, but I'm more of a hands-on layman type experiment on myself and then pass it on to others type of dude. So I'm learning that our food chain, and it started back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, you know, with the Dust Bowl. All our food now is petroleum-based fertilizers. So the whole glyphosate situation, you know, we're thinking it's an insecticide or pesticide, and it's really an antibiotic. It's actually killing the microbes in the soil. So the microbes break down the minerals, and then the sun, the plant uses photosynthesis and the microbes in the soil to draw the nutrients into the plant, and then we eat the plant, and that's how we get the nutrients. So if they kill the microbes, then there's no nutrients. So they use artificial fertilizers so to grow. So now we're eating Frankenstein food. So the people who are trying to be healthy the most, the vegan, organic, paleo, all the people that are going out of their way to eat healthy, we're still eating Frankenstein food. It's crazy because even if you grow it organic, the farm, 100 miles down the road, the glyphosate is getting absorbed into the clouds and raining down on your farm. So we're in a war. We're in a war for our health, for our minds and souls and bodies, and they're doing it on a cellular level. So if you're not even paying attention, and that's what all the distraction is for, so you don't pay attention, so you don't raise hell. I think as a mom, as a father, but I think if more moms knew that what this stuff was really doing, this is like a crime against humanity. Because think about it, you're giving your child something that, you think he wants or needs even. I mean, pleasure, sustain, sustenance, all that type of stuff. And it's all poison and garbage. And just like you say, we can deal with some toxins, some parasites, some, viruses, but when you get overloaded from every angle, the water, the air, the food, it's in our clothes, what we put on our skin, it's like insane. So anyway, that's why, conversations like this, can get people to just start paying attention. And we still have the power. I mean, we may not be able to flip it over in our lifetime, but at least we can wake people up and say, look, this stuff is not killing you today. You know what I'm saying? And we all gonna check out eventually anyway. But don't you want to my grandparents were all in the 90s and almost 100. You know what I'm saying? And that's because they didn't grow up with the poisons we did. They didn't have the EMFs and the PP. I mean, we got so many initials coming at us. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I'm very passionate about, helping people first, wake up and recognize, okay, this is not going to happen by accident. I'm not going to be able to, do this just because. You have to literally put forth effort. You have to educate yourself. And then you have to learn how to apply according to our daily, to our modern lifestyle. Because, when I was a bodybuilder, I dedicated all 24 hours of my day to my craft. All 24 hours was for what I did, but people don't have time for that. Even as a father now, I barely get to go to the gym. There's so many things you got to do when you're considering other people's, other people. So anyway, I want to just offer my wisdom, knowledge, experience, and, part of this conversation, just, to help people figure out simple ways to do baby steps so you get where you're trying to get to. And how I used to do it when I used to compete, I used to do 6, 7, 8, 9 shows a year. And I remember my fans would come up to me and say, how do you do all these shows? How do you do this? And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know, but I just get up every day and go and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, when I look back, I reflect on what I did, but I just keep moving forward. And I understand that, like I said, we're in a war. So if I want to be healthy, then I'm going to have to go out of my way, turn over some stones and all that type of stuff to make that happen.
So
Thank you, Toney. Go ahead, Bettina.
One of the resources, and I think everyone will agree that is free and that you can use, is the Environmental Working Group, Complete Food and Pesticide List. And I know you're probably going to get to skin deep in a little bit about the cosmetics, but you can go and go to the environmentalworkinggroup.org, EWG.org, or search for the Complete Food and Pesticide List. And the lower the number, the more pesticides there are on it. And I looked this week, number 1 sprayed crop is strawberries. Right? So
Dirty Dozen. That number 1 on the Dirty Dozen. And I love that you brought this up, because this is why we are bringing this up, is because we want to bring awareness, education, and resources. Thank you, Bettina, for bringing the resource to us as well, to educate people, to bring the awareness. Look, I used to think giving my kids the wheat goldfish was a healthy option. You know what I mean? Like, the marketing is amazing. Like, if you just don't know, like, this was a long time ago when I had to stop cooking for my son who had all these allergies. I was, I mean, there was a time 20 years ago that I was like, oh, this is a good option. They're saying it's all whole wheat. You look for the WW. So this is just taking it much further and looking into, much more awareness and just make better choices. Doesn't mean you have to, some people will throw everything out, but we just need to be aware. And I just don't think even, we have teens who are wearing makeup like crazy. I mean, I wear it. We all like use different products, skincare products, and we think we're doing something good for ourselves, right? So I'm going to lead that into Jane, because not only our food sources and bringing that awareness, but Jane, thank you so much for being with us. Give us a little introduction of yourself. You're a registered nurse and transformational health coach.
Right.
So go ahead.
So after years as a hospital-based psychiatric nurse and as a director of nursing and medical training for a national healthcare company, I wanted to transition to group and individual coaching programs, because what I found is that, the system was not really helping people sustain great health. And what I have found is when you are able to give people easy, sustainable diet and lifestyle changes that doesn't require denial and deprivation, they choose a healthy lifestyle. So I just know when you help see someone help see the world differently, that they embrace their challenges as opportunities to learn, like we are here, and they show up differently, and they get results that seemed unimaginable or unachievable. So I just help clients have a better experience of themselves and others in the world, and partner with brilliant people like on this panel to help support them in the ways, because there are so many wonderful techniques and modalities that can be used to bring about better health. But as far as skincare, I got involved with knowing more about the skincare industry because in my 50s, I found out that I had multiple skin allergies. It started with seborrheic dermatitis. I looked like I was molting. It was awful. Standard care was just steroids, and that was not something that I was in favor of doing long term. So I did allergy testing, and then I did gut testing because it's all related. It's already been explained here, at least in brief. And so what I know is that there's only 2 pages of federal legislation governing the cosmetics industry, and that's a market valued at $89 billion in 2018. So the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, is the federal agency that oversees cosmetics industry and its authorities. And it's not significantly changed. Does anybody know when the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act was written? It was 1938. So, it's just amazing. And so the current cosmetic ingredient landscape is of course, pretty much unregulated. So there are more than 85,000 chemicals registered for use in the United States, with thousands hitting the market every year. They're used extensively, as we discussed, in our homes, our schools, our communities, but less than 1/3 of these chemicals have publicly available safety data, and less than 2% have been assessed for their effects on children's health and development. So the United States has banned or partially restricted approximately 30 ingredients from personal care products. Health Canada has banned or restricted nearly 600, and the European Union about 1,400. But there's the fragrancy loophole. So the fragrancy loophole is that there are an additional 3,000 ingredients in fragrance compounds and cosmetics and other consumer products. But since fragrance is considered a trade secret, companies do not have to disclose the ingredients used to create their scents, and the consumer is often left in the dark. The blends may include phthalates, synthetic musk, other ingredients like hormone disruptors and allergens. So why this is so important, and I think somebody pointed out, maybe it was you, Alice, that women use on average of 12 personal care products a day. Men use about 6, teenagers 17. And we're just exposed, as we said earlier, to just all of these chemicals every day through our food and through our personal care products. So the FDA's authority over cosmetics is different than drugs, foods, biologics, and medical devices. So unlike these categories, the personal care products are some of the least regulated consumer products on the market. So as a result, the FDA does not require cosmetic ingredients to be assessed for safety before they go on the market, and they cannot issue a product recall. So these things that are on the shelves, to your point about your goldfish, I mean, people go to a store and they assume what's on the shelves is safe to be used without any harm. But there's so much research that you can't say, it's important to know that like all chemicals aren't harmful. and that there's no direct link necessarily between a personal care product and developing a specific disease. But we do know, and it has been said, I think it was, I have it right here, it was a science council that definitely said that environmental toxicity is something that's really affecting our health. They finally came out and finally said something. But, you know, this is where there are more than 200 synthetic chemicals known to be toxic, and they're found in the bodies of nearly all Americans, including newborn infants. And we're exposed to these chemicals in utero. So, I mean, just for an example, I know Bettina mentioned this, and sometimes I get tongue-tied. Organochloride pesticides, phenols, phthalates, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and perchlorate were detected in 99 to 100% of pregnant women in the United States. And some of these chemicals were banned more than 4 decades ago. So that indicates their persistence, you know, that they're in our environment. So, you know, when we can find products that do have less of these ingredients, and I was going to also bring up the Environmental Working Group. It's a great source, again, for people to look. There's so many ways that you can access that information very easily. They will tell you whether chemicals are endocrine disruptors, whether they have reproductive or fertility issues. They'll tell you whether there's cancer, and they'll tell you what's a better alternative. And what it is that you can do so that you can still put your face on, or, you know, or clean your skin, or shave your body, or do things that are safer for you to do. The research, again, as Toney said, you know, this is really, it has to be kind of like the cultural revolution. Everybody's gonna kind of stand up. That's why I did get involved with Beauty Counter, only because they're on the Hill legislating to change that 1938 law. And I just know that they have a never list, 45 ingredients that never go in any of their products. And guess what my personal list of allergens are that I can't use on my skin? It's everything in their never list. So that doesn't mean it's perfect, just means it's safer, high performing products that people can use and feel good about. I mean, their sunscreen was one of the first ever used in Hawaii, where, because they had banned all of the other chemicals in standard sunscreens. So it's really just a way to just reduce the use of personal care, household products, harmful chemicals, how you wash your food well before you eat it, how you vacuum and mop your floors, and what kind of toxic chemicals in your home, and how you can improve indoor air quality. So
thank you, Jane. It's amazing to bring this awareness, because I'm sure some people don't even think about it. You know what I mean? They just get up and it's like, hey, this, you know, this is.
Tina has a comment. I'm really.
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, but I went. This is my post-COVID look without color in my hair, and it's short, and it's, you know, not as manageable. And I went looking for a hairspray on Skin Deep at the Environmental Working Group, and I couldn't find the ingredients. They are allowed to sell something without listing the ingredients. There were just too many question marks, and there was not one of them there that was rated highly enough.
Right. Some of them have a proprietary blend that they don't expose, they don't give their list to the EWG, but, you know, we just being aware and doing what we can do is what we need to do. So Babette, I know I want you to be able to come next, if you don't mind, coming on board and adding to this discussion. One, about the, you know, of course we know about these disruptors, and they've been, you know, discussed, but specifically, you know, you can add any comment you want, but I know I really wanted you, and you wanted to speak about the leaky gut conversation as well, and healing the gut, and talking about the gut brain axis, and of course, you know, that could lead into emotional as well. So I'll let you go. Please introduce yourself, Babette Gilbert-Teno.
Thank you, Alice. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate being able to participate and just share. You know, what all of you have shared so far is so many great resources, and just a wealth of knowledge, information, education. So I hope, I mean, there's a collective like hundreds of years of experience and knowledge on today. And so what a great group of professionals, Alice, that you surround yourself with. So commendations to you, and thank you to everyone who's shared so far. So I love resources, because what we're talking about, most people don't know very much about, obviously, which is one of your points of even having this discussion, right? Is to provide tools, training, resources for people to be able to make informed choices about their health. And what an important topic. I mean, so many topics, right? But the Environmental Working Group has really like phenomenal consumer guides from skincare, personal care products to the Dirty Dozen. And they've been updated this year. And recently, the sunscreen guide, since we're heading into summer, right, was updated in May of this year. So really great resources that are available for everybody. So their website is just ewg.org, like was mentioned by a few of you already, which leads me to leaky gut. I want to start with this. A lot of people are like, leaky gut, that sounds so weird. There's a lot more information that's been, and research that's been made more readily available in the last 5 years. But I remember going to continuing education seminars years and years ago when Dr. Jeffrey Bland, the godfather of functional medicine, spoke and was talking about things 10 to 15 years prior to anyone else. And people are like, all these other practitioners that would attend these seminars would say, I feel like I just drank from a fire hose. I don't even know what he just said, but 10 to 15 years after, it was more widely publicized what he had presented previously. And so just being very blessed and honored to learn from him and be mentored by him. But he was talking about leaky gut years and years ago, and it's really interesting. Leaky gut, it affects the entire body, the sinus and mouth, and the brain and the skin and the thyroid, the adrenals, the colon, the joints, and all of the corresponding associated autoimmunity. So there is a direct correlation. Leaky gut is the gateway to autoimmunity. And oftentimes when people have leaky gut, they have leaky brain as well. And a lot of people don't know that that's a real thing, but it's a real thing. And so there's so much that I want to share. But first, I want to start with a couple of questions. Let's do a real gut check to begin with, because a lot of people just don't know these things. I don't know if you've all flown on a flight recently or ever. I'm sure obviously everybody has flown recently, but I used to think, because my dad passed away actually in his 40s, and he had cancer. He was misdiagnosed for many years. And then my mom remarried. My stepdad was diagnosed 20 years ago with Parkinson's and most recently dementia. Interestingly, one of the areas of the body that is often overlooked is dental, not just dental hygiene, but underlying infections like Dr. Bettina shared. That's one of the things that's really important and critical to look at. And there's a lot of people that I've had the opportunity, a lot of clients to work with, and I'm like the 10th or the 20th person that they come to because they said, I don't feel right. Something's not right, but my doctor says my labs are within normal ranges. And then I look, there's a missed underlying infection, there's anemia, there's, so many other things, blood sugar dysregulation. So, and then dental health. And I remember years before my stepdad was actually diagnosed with Parkinson's, I said, Mom, something is not quite right. Either he has a gut infection or something going on in his mouth, because he had really bad breath and you could smell it from far away, which of course I go into clinical observation, right? And paying attention to different things. And so it's really important to know just different things and don't ignore or suppress things. And so interestingly, my stepdad kept going to dentist after dentist after dentist, and they just kept doing more dental work and covering up all that stuff. His goal, he was a brilliant engineer when he was working, and his goal was they were going to retire in Florida, and he was going to be a nutritional consultant to the older people in that community in Key West where they had a place. And interestingly, he would always say, he ate healthy, he juiced, all these things, but you can't just keep covering up mercury and all these other infections. And so when they actually came to visit one time many years ago, I said, I just want to encourage you to go to my biocompatible dentist because something is not right. He did, sure enough. He had 7 teeth that had necrotic tissue under the teeth. So obviously that doesn't happen overnight. So it was black, obviously necrotic, dead tissue. And so he had major infections for how many years? And obviously dental, like your mouth is so close to your brain. So a lot of that stuff was contributing to neuroinflammation for so many years. Who knows how long he had it going on, but it wasn't an overnight thing, clearly. And so immediately he had those teeth pulled. And here's the other thing. What a lot of people don't realize, just toxins and leaky gut and all these things, how they're related, leaky gut, leaky brain, autoimmunity, allergies. What a lot of people don't realize is that They go for chelation therapy and nutritional IVs, which are all both great, right? However, if you're going for chelation, what they found, there's a lot of tests that my stepdad had done, is that the chelation therapy was driving, he had very high heavy metals in his mouth and obviously infection, but driving those toxins further into his brain. And so it accelerated all of that. And so anyway, he is still alive, but just barely existing at the moment with Parkinson's and dementia. A lot of practitioners are like, we have no idea how he has lived as long as he has. And I'll tell you, because he's gone, I mean, they have done a lot of things, he and my mom, and Dr. David Perlmutter is his neurologist, who obviously was at the forefront of things that, from glutathione pushes, nutritional IVs, et cetera, helping slow down the progressions of the Parkinson's and most recently dementia. But I want to ask you, all of you who are listening, some questions. Ask yourself these questions and think about people that you might know that might have leaky gut right now and not even know about it. So a couple questions, actually more than a couple. Do you have bad breath and or a coated tongue, or do you know anyone that does? Does your poop float? Do you have joint pain? Do you have fatigue? These are obviously not just indicative of leaky gut. There's other potential things, but proper labs, proper testing, and I'll give you some resources in just a few minutes that you can actually access. And there's a lot of patient education material on these websites. Fatigue, do you have regularly have bloating or gas? You get headaches often? What about food sensitivities? Have you gained weight and or do you find it hard to lose weight? Are you anxious or depressed? Do you have abdominal cramps or pain? Leaky gut, Dr. Bettina actually mentioned what leaky gut is, but you know, the correlation and the connection between leaky gut, allergy, autoimmune, leaky brain. So leaky gut has actually reached an epidemic proportions, and only recently it has attracted a lot more attention due to the increase in overwhelming evidence that's in the forefront, with several different doctors leading the way, right? With large voices and media interviews, et cetera. It's especially shocking, actually. Intestinal permeability or leaky gut has been discussed in medical literature for over 100 years. Isn't that crazy? Over 100 years, and it's just most recently in the forefront, obviously coming out more and more. But there's a lot of evidence that obviously indicates that Hippocrates, which we know the father of modern medicine, was absolutely right when he said all disease begins in the gut. A lot of people don't pay attention, or they'll treat a body part and not address everything. And do you realize, for all that are listening, watching, that leaky gut, leaky brain, and autoimmunity, there's all of these diseases. I'm not going to read the whole list because there's hundreds of diseases that are linked to leaky gut, but from anemia to hypoglycemia, elevated liver enzymes, low white blood count, mineral deficiency, increased or decreased appetite, loss of vitality, decreased or virtually non-existent libido, vomiting, defective tooth enamel, diarrhea, constipation, ulcers, tremors, neuropathy. It just goes on and on and on. Muscle wasting, muscle weakness, hyperactivity, timid behavior, anxiety, aggression, depression, dementia, reduced learning. Ask yourself this question, like, how many people do you know? I mean, there's so many people that are affected by one or a lot of these things at different times, and they will just keep popping. And I used to consult for a couple different pharmaceutical companies. One actually had a proton pump inhibitor, which of course is suppressing everything, and it's just causing further symptoms and further more serious problems down the road, because they were meant initially years ago when I worked for a pharmaceutical company, this particular one, or consulted, it was supposed to be like up to 8 weeks, but people are on them for like 25 years. And so it's doing things that preventing the body from doing things that it's supposed to be able to do on its own. So think about this. Have you or anyone you know experienced any of the following? There's so many things that are related, from brain fog to memory decline, mood issues, bloating. Again, some of these things are redundant. Food sensitivities, it's really important. And some of the causes of leaky gut, there are many, but some of the causes are bacterial imbalances, underlying infections that go undetected or not diagnosed, overlooked, chronic inflammation, and all of these things go hand in hand, right? If you have an underlying infection, there's chronic inflammation, toxic overload, chronic stress, which causes and contributes to leaky gut, consistently poor diet choices and food sensitivity, damage from taking NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which a lot of people just pop those daily like candy. Cytotoxic drugs and radiation, or certain antibiotics, excessive alcohol consumption, and compromised immunity. All these things go hand in hand, and there's so many different things that are related, as we already talked about regarding leaky gut. Think about this, because a lot of times people, now there's a lot of seasonal allergies that seem to be getting worse and worse, and a lot of people are like, just so you know, you're not alone. And you're not wrong thinking that seasonal allergies are getting worse. Allergy season isn't just longer than ever, it's more severe, resulting in millions and millions of people throughout the country relying on harsh over-the-counter medications that they're just popping and thinking, okay, I'm just going to take this so I can actually breathe better or provide symptom relief. But what they're not realizing, obviously, there's underlying issues that are contributing. So in functional medicine, as you all know, who all of you practice functional medicine, it's getting to the root cause of the symptoms and the diagnosis upstream, addressing things on a cellular level and correcting them there, so you don't have to keep popping things for symptom relief, because a lot of those things that people are popping for symptom relief often suppressed, and then later they have to take something else to counteract the effects of the thing that they've been popping for all these years that they thought was harmless and just providing symptom relief, not knowing or realizing the damage that's happening on a cellular level. So allergy medications, for all that are listening that might be taking allergy medications, they can help in the short term, and they often do, but they also come with a lot of uncomfortable side effects like dry eyes and mouth, and fatigue, drowsiness, nausea, brain fog, trouble sleeping. It just goes on and on and on. There's a lot of new evidence that suggests that people, I'll say might be, but I will say most likely, can ditch the drugs and avoid the discomfort of seasonal allergies like completely naturally by healing their gut. And it sounds so, sometimes people are like, what? It sounds so counterintuitive if you don't know anything about leaky gut, but the gut, everything starts in the gut, right? So a lot of people think that gut health is only about digestion. It's not. 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut. So obviously gut issues are more susceptible to allergies and autoimmune conditions. A lot of times people will suppress and take things like they're just thinking they're having temporary gas or bloating, and they will pop over-the-counter things, but they don't know that what they're suppressing and they're causing further problems on a cellular level, which leads to autoimmunity. Undiagnosed or mistreated, ignored leaky gut for years and years and years can lead to, it's the gateway, the window to autoimmunity. Even mental health, you know, the feel-good serotonin neurotransmitter is made in the gut. So mental health obviously depends on a strong, healthy gut lining as well. And a lot of people, so leaky gut is also known as obviously intestinal permeability. And so more and more, as I already mentioned a couple of times, there's a lot more information, a lot more publicity regarding leaky gut. It's sweeping the nation like the world is paying more attention. And a lot of people have severe holes in their immunity and overall health. It's years of, as I already mentioned, things that contribute to leaky gut, processed food, alcohol, chronic stress, toxins, certain medications, and the breakdown, it just continues to break down the intestinal lining. And then people can't absorb, assimilate, and digest or utilize nutrients from foods that they're eating. And then they develop major food sensitivities and allergies worsen, and even painful skin conditions. A lot of people will put something on topically, but not realizing, obviously, our skin is our largest organ. So the body is pretty amazing. When we remove interferences and provide the tools, the nutrients that the body needs to do its job, it's pretty amazing what it does. And so skin conditions, that's a sign, that's a red flag that something is going on internally and the body is trying to get that out. So there's so many different triggers. A lot of people think their leaky gut and autoimmune management depends 100% on diet, and diet plays obviously a foundational role, but it's not the full discharge for everyone. Leaky gut and the autoimmune journey, it just goes on and on, allergies, etc. We have to get to the underlying mechanisms and triggers that they're different for everyone. And think about this, they're also not often obvious. A lot of people overlook things that they just would never associate with leaky gut or autoimmunity. But you know, it's interesting, so many different clients specializing in autoimmune conditions for so many years. So there's lots of different potential triggers, and people have to become aware. So it's not just us telling them, or people need to do their own research and pay attention to their bodies. But there's people, excuse me, research obviously has identified many, many different triggers for autoimmune, for leaky gut. So to pay attention, like one person can start, they'll notice their leaky gut and autoimmunity flare up after being in an elevator with someone with strong cologne or strong perfume. They obviously have a chemical sensitivity to something in that cologne or perfume. And oftentimes too, if there is a reaction, there's a leaky brain component too. Often indicative, obviously, of leaky gut and or leaky brain, a compromised blood-brain barrier. And then another person could be triggered by sitting in traffic and inhaling exhaust, because it turns out they have a benzene sensitivity. All these chemical sensitivities and reactions should not be ignored. And then other people, hair products, bleach or skincare products, cleaning products and homes. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. An abusive partner or a boss, there's all these different triggers. So people need to pay attention to what is happening and how they are being triggered, so they can identify and address the underlying mechanisms for leaky gut and autoimmunity, to give each person their best chance for keeping their gut, getting their gut healed and keeping it healed and sealed, and their autoimmune condition in remission. So obviously a lot of this is self-education. So we can't completely rely on someone else to figure it out for us. We need to be a partner in our healing. There's so many different resources, from labs to, we have specific targeted supplements that heal and seal leaky gut. I have never seen anything like this one specific targeted product. And then there's a leaky gut ebook that I wrote. So if you all want to get in touch with Alice, then I can give her the lab information and then specific targeted supplement information. She can provide you with a link for that, and then also the link for the ebook. So just remember this, not all supplements, labs are obviously, there's very few in the great category, if you will, and highly reproducible, and that don't produce false negatives and false positives. Supplements, that's really important, along the lines of what Dr. Bettina was sharing in food sources with the toxins, and what Toney mentioned about toxins in food and sprays and all this other stuff, pesticides. Supplements, you know, it's a fairly unregulated industry. So you only want to make sure that you're putting in the highest quality raw ingredients in your supplements, because we have a much sicker patient population. We don't want to make people even sicker. We want to help them heal. And that's exactly what these are doing. They have certifications, lab certifications, and above and beyond what is required, because the commitment to quality and to helping heal the world one amazing person at a time is starts at the top. And so I just want to say that get in touch with Alice if you want any of the information regarding specific targeted labs for different arrays for autoimmunity, for leaky gut, for sensitivities, for toxic overload, etc. And then the supplements and also the ebook. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's amazing. And I love how, you know, the emphasis is definitely on the body is created to heal itself. We just have to equip it. And keep it free from toxins. But not only, Babette, you mentioned so many fabulous things. Thank you so much on the indicators, the you know, stuff that people will continue to try to just cover up symptoms, right? Instead of getting to the root cause. And so that's why we're here, not only to say, hey, these toxins that are in our food, our environment, our supplements, our, our skincare, body washes and everything else, but also our stressors. I mean, we can talk about stress all day long, and there's really, I mean, it's a joke in our industry that, you know, the only people without stress are the ones that are, 6 feet under, right? So we have this, and we have some emotional traumas, and I want to kind of segue this to Julie, because I know, Julie, you have to get ready to go soon. So I want to let you go next. The emotional traumas and the stressors and everything that also has an effect not only on your gut, because people will say, oh, they get stressed, they feel it in their gut, but this stress is a toxic condition. Like you stub your toe, or you know, you're feeling stress, anxiety, your body is still under pressure and it's still going to have a negative reaction. So I'm going to let you, as the specialist, take care of that. Introduce yourself, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Lynch Sasson, and I'm a chiropractor, and that's where I start everything is with chiropractic, but I'm also certified in neuroemotional technique, which is a mind-body approach, as well as Webster technique, which is working with pregnant women and babies afterwards. And so, you know, emotions drive our lives, and we are emotional beings. And, you know, everything about us is a chemical reaction. And so often we hear neuro, so we know it's nervous system, and we hear emotional, and people go to psychology. Emotions are actually physiological reactions within the body, and they can be both positive or negative. And with that, we store them in our bodies. So neuroemotional technique is a technique that was designed by two chiropractors, Dr. Scott Walker and Dr. Deb Walker in San Diego, California. And I had the pleasure of at one time being on the One Research Board, which is the research group nonprofit for the organization, so that we could actually validate this technique, and so that people didn't think it was just applied kinesiology with some woo-woo science about it. It actually marries a lot of science and acupuncture, meridian therapy. And for a lot of people, people are now coming to the forefront about what acupuncture is. And acupuncture has been around for 1,000 years. And just because we may not have the test to actually explain what acupuncture can do, it does. And there are 5 elements. There's fire, metal, water, air, and earth. And in that 5 elements that we marry with the chiropractic technique, with specific set of 15 steps to work out the emotions, we can sort of pinpoint an original emotion or trigger in the body to help the body unravel itself and break the neural link to that trigger. And the One Foundation was actually able to do research around this with functional MRAs and MRI technology up at the Jefferson University. So you can look that up. I'm not going to go into full explanation, but back to emotions. Part of our healing journey, when we start to detox, a lot of people think it's just, oh, I'm going to go on a water detox, or I'm going to go to a food detox, or I'm going to go into intermittent fasting, or I'm going to heal my gut. And as we start to go through that healing journey, it's going to be up and down, and we're going to hit different roadblocks. And some people are going to be successful, and some people are going to stop. And so with that, you know, the stomach is a huge contributor. So if our stomach isn't healed, because as we know, there's the gut-brain connection, so vital to our vitality, that we can have despair. And that's one of those emotions around the stomach. And, you know, as we talk about the word emotions, and one of the best researchers or late researchers around this was Dr. Candace Pert, who wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion. And she was phenomenal and just lovely, lovely, brilliant woman. And she was able to figure out what is called the neuropeptide. And she was able to actually show and demonstrate that for so long we believed, 1, that the mind and the body were separate, and 2, that our emotions were all stuck up here. But really, our emotions are all over our body, and they're associated with different, you know, organs in our bodies. So when we do these detox in the liver, we may be a little more aggravated or irritable or angry or aggressive, or maybe we're doing, you know, lung detox because we've had bronchitis and more grief comes up and we feel a little sadder. Or with our kidneys, we're a little more stressed out, which goes to feeling a little more anxious. So that's really normal. What's not normal is when that perseverates in the body, which just means that we hold on to that and we keep thinking about that in our body, and we're not really able to let that go, or it overwhelms us. And that's where, you know, when we do detoxes, it's really vital that we either work with a healthcare practitioner or health coach and not do it on our own, because we can be overwhelmed with the process. And it's always good to have somebody there that we can seek guidance in case we need more help in this process. And so, I could go on and on about, neuroemotional technique. I will point you to the website. There are wonderful practitioners globally, not just chiropractors, medical doctors, acupuncturists, osteopaths, psychologists, sociologists. And our goal is to look at the body from a whole system. Chiropractic originally wasn't just structural, wasn't just adjusting bones. Really, D.D. Palmer was brilliant in his, development of chiropractic. It really covers chemical, structural, and emotional. And then emotion really is physiology. And when we're letting go of these emotions, there's a vibrational energy that we release, and really being able to have that release back into the universe is very physical in nature. And so with that, Alice, I've got to get to a softball game, a softball coach for my daughter. So it's been lovely to be with all of you tonight. And do you have any other questions? Anybody want to jump in before I have to go?
I want to thank you very much for that. And I know we all have something to say. I see Bettina is jumping at the bit as well. But honestly, I'm going to share your website, because you're practicing this here locally in this area. And then anybody who wants to contact us, and if you want to refer somebody else in another location, then that's fine as well. But yeah,
I do mobile chiropractic in my area. And the reason is because I'm a busy mom, but I'm also, like Dr. Herbert, I am a second career chiropractor. And before this, I was an executive in high tech. So I really understand that crazy schedule. And I love flexibility of going into people's lives and, helping them where they're at, not necessarily always being able to jump in the car to come see me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then you're right there and available, and you can also help with the whole body mind.
The whole body mind connection.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Anybody she probably has 1 or 2 minutes if anybody wants to say anything to Dr. Julie.
I just know about the Candace Pert's book, Molecules of Emotion. That's part of the training that I did around intuitive intelligence. It's also the biology of belief by Bruce Lipton. These are all really important things for people to be aware of. So thanks so much for bringing that up, Julie and Bettina.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have done detoxes for a while. I became a detox advocate when I had my diagnosis years ago, and part of my healing to become to lower my numbers for the cancer indicators was to heal emotionally as well. And so thank you so much for bringing that up, because when I do detoxes with Toney Freeman, it's often that when I'm cleaning out the liver, or I feel like, we drink teas for everything, people hit this wall, like right about day 3 or 4, and the emotions really start coming out, and they just think, I want food, but it's not hangry at all, because you're really not hungry. It is the release of these emotions. So I'm so glad that you brought awareness to this, because it is something that trapped emotions can cause physical illness. And I think that is very, very, very important for everybody to hear, that if you have unresolved traumas, past traumas, or unresolved emotions that you're not dealing with, it can manifest itself physically. So,
and 80% of what we see in chiropractic really isn't, that huge trauma. It's really stressors greater than our body's ability to adapt.
That overload, that elevator is overloaded. Yeah, no, I mean, I say that jokingly, but I mean, it's just to use a layman's terms, just to give some kind of, visual about what we're doing to ourselves, emotionally and physically, and in our diets and such. So, Janelle, thank you, Dr. Julie, so much. And we'll share everything. Yeah, thank you so much. Babette had to leave as well, so contact me if you want any information from Babette. But Janelle, I want to give you an opportunity. Thank you so much. You're traveling and you're, making your time available for us, because what you do is a beautiful addition to everything that we do here as well. And I've used your services as a thermographer as well to measure some of the indicators of toxicity and what I'm trying to do, which is detox, which is what I've been doing, healing the gut, but also working with Toney as well. So Janelle, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us, your take on the do's and don'ts of detoxification, and just bring awareness to what you have to offer.
Sure. Thank you, Alice. And thank you everyone so far for, well, everyone actually has gone and everyone's amazing. I love being a part of the Holistic Chamber and just the network of this community that we've created, and you, Alice, bringing everyone all together. So thank you so much for that. I learned so much tonight. And what I do is, I think a lot of you guys probably know what I do by now, but I'll talk a little bit about how it can detect inflammation and help with monitoring the process of doing a detox. So medical thermography is thermal imaging of the body to detect inflammation and potential disease. So we're going to see an image or images of your body, and we'll map out the heat signatures of your body. So that will tell us so much information about the state of your health, including, we do a breast cancer detection screening. We look for, skin, melanoma. We look for just heat over any organ that can mean different things. So what we like to do is point that out to the patient. Then they discuss with their doctor how they'd like to proceed in terms of treatment. So whether you want to do a detox, or if it's lymphatic congestion that we're seeing, maybe you want to get a lymphatic drainage massage and address that information in different ways with your doctor and your practitioners that you work with. So specifically for detox, we are seeing a pattern that looks similar to leopard spots, but it's called a mottling pattern. And so it shows up in the chest area or the abdomen of individuals who are overburdened by toxins, which I feel like most of us are, just from living on planet Earth. And so we can't really avoid the amount of toxins we're exposed to in any given day or moment, but we can constantly work on, trying to be as healthy as we possibly can and reducing the amount of toxins that we're taking in knowingly through our food, water, and air. So what we do is just try our very best, and then we can monitor the progress too. So if you're doing a detox program, we can do an initial baseline thermography scan, and then we can follow up after you're done with your detox, or however long the interpreting doctors are recommending that you go for your follow-up. And we can see a huge change. The mottling patterns fade away. If you've done a good job with your detox, we'll see a completely different scan, which is really exciting. It's my favorite part of doing what I do, is seeing that progress. So that is how thermography can detect, the level of toxins in your body. And it's just awesome for a bunch of other stuff too. So, but specifically for detox, it's a really great way to monitor and be able to say, ooh, I really did a great job. Look at how much I cleared up in my body. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's an excellent indicator. It's a measurement tool, which is nice because a lot of people just don't understand what's happening on a cellular level and a physical level if they just can't see results. And it's working when you were cleaning out. So I see Jane raising her hand.
I just want to say I've done thermography with Janelle for years now, and I have significantly changed the heat signatures in my body based on practices that were developed from a result of doing the thermography. And it's
Awesome.
It's a wonderful way of, a really non-invasive way to get a lot of information and direct care. And Janelle, I know you and I have spoken about the fact that detection is not prevention. How detection is just an opportunity to see where you are. Everything else we're talking about here is the avenues to what you do to take that information and change your diet, your lifestyle, your products, whatever, all the things we touched on today, in a way, as Toney said, to really reduce the load. We're all going to be thinking about Bettina's elevator forever. So,
Yeah.
But it really was something. It's now something that it's a practice that I'm devoted to doing, as directed by Janelle and her staff to let me know when I need further testing. But I've changed, and I mean things that she's taught me, I don't think most people have ever heard. So I'm really grateful to Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Jane.
you know,
Appreciate
just in that, I just saw Tony hugging his wife Kelly. I saw that hug there, and I just want to bring that up because I had some indicators, even just from wearing wired bras, that I had a very big, heated area under the breast, and the thermography can also indicate some breast irregularities, and it's non-radiation, unlike mammogram. So this again is just indicators, right? But Tony, tell us a little bit more, if you don't mind, if it's not too personal. This is part of your journey because of Kelly's breast cancer, of why you do what you do, because it's not just the bodybuilding part. There's a whole passion and purpose, and a real passion and purpose behind what you do and how you're changing lives. And so, yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit more, please.
So in order to become a world-class bodybuilder, there's a lot of vanity in there, but it's a lot of passion, a lot of, digging deep and pushing yourself past what the average person would really do. And so in order to achieve that, you have to become selfish on purpose. Like you literally have to say, okay, well, I have to eat this much, I have to train this much. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't do it, then you can't expect those results. Well, when I finished bodybuilding, I injured myself, so I kind of retired a little bit before I wanted to. So my goal was to retire at 50. So I retired at 49 and some change, and I was injured, and I was beaten up and tired and all that type of stuff. So I went and got myself scanned and checked out, and I found out that I was, malnourished, and that kind of blew my mind because I was eating 7 meals a day. I'm like, how do I have malnutrition or malnourished or deficiencies when all I do is eat? It was just the weirdest thing. And the doctor looked me in my eyes. He was like, well, first of all, it's not in the soil, so it's not in the food, so it doesn't really. I was like, wow. So that blew my mind. And then dealing with trying to, reverse that type of situation, because when you're malnourished, you got to be specific with your nutrients. I had to lay off my training, blah, 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 blah. So all those things I did was to heal myself. And when I started that process, I started with fasting and cleansing. I went from eating 8 meals a day to 7 to 6 to 5 to 4, all the way down to 1. And when I started intermittent fasting, then I did some regular fasting, because I found out I had parasites and all that type of stuff. So I started purging those things, and I started doing research on how do you get, because I had some really rare parasites. I traveled all over the world, and I had rare parasites that, you just can't go get an antibiotic or a shot and they're going away. So, I mean, when I started looking into how to fix what I had, it was, you either find a way to kill it or go I had a kidney worm. So I had to either take the whole kidney out or figure a way to kill these worms. And you get it from eating sushi. So, I was a sushi addict. I was eating 10, 12 ounces of tuna a day. So I couldn't even get mad at, when I found out that I had it, because that's exactly where you get it from. But anyway, I did all those things, and it taught me a lot. And I don't think I escaped, but I think I came out on the other side, and I came out with a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And I refound the old me, the person I was before I started bodybuilding. And the person that I had to become in order to be the X-Man. You know what I'm saying? They used to call me the X-Man. So that persona that I built, I started lifting at 162 pounds, and at my height and my max weight or whatever, I was 323 pounds. That's basically another 100% me. And when I started detoxing and purging all those toxins, my consciousness came back. I can never forget it. I started studying about the pineal gland and how the water that we drink, our fluoridated water and chlorinated water, it calcifies your pineal gland. Well, I started making my own distilled water, because that's how you reverse the process. And they say distilled water pulls out minerals, which it does, but it only pulls out the inorganic ones that our body doesn't need. So if you want to turn your pineal gland back on, drink you some homemade distilled water. Long story short, my consciousness came back, and I woke up one day like, where have I been? How did I do this to myself? How did I get so far gone? And so anyway, in the process of healing myself, it taught me how to help other people heal themselves, because your body does the healing. No doctor does the healing. God in your body does the healing. So nobody else can take the credit. So what I like to do is kind of like point people in the right direction. Some people I even show them to the door and open the door for them, but you have to go through and do it yourself. So learning all the stuff that I learned, and it's like I learned it just in time, because as soon as I, got to the point where I felt like I was okay with me, then Kelly got diagnosed. And of course, she's more conventional, like most people. So she went to the doctor, and then they wanted to start her down that whole path. And I've been with her for 30 years almost. And I'm just like, well, we did this to you, our lifestyle, what I'm saying? When you look at the causes of cancer, we was doing all those things, not like on purpose, but when she had a stressful job, she had to eat and drive through all the time. She was having emotional issues. She was in her second career. I mean, just all those things. I was like, wow, kind of like me discovering how I got the parasite. Go ahead.
She had stage 4 breast cancer when you found out. Is that correct?
It was stage 3, triple positive, HER2 triple positive. I mean, there's only one that's worse. So she had the second to the worst one. And so I'm sitting up here looking at my woman, and it's my baby. I was just listening to this sermon about how to a man, his woman is her baby, and she's my baby. One of the things that drove me through that whole process, I kept hearing that song by I think it's Chicago, The Glory of Love. Like, it was like, it would not leave my head. It was insane. So all the stuff, all the potions and all the stuff, I did all her therapy with her, except for the chemo and radiation, of course. But I did everything, all the keto dieting, I did everything else with her, because I wanted her to, to feel supported in every single way. She supported me through my whole career. But when I saw her, how well she accepted, of course, she didn't want to do the stuff, but she started doing it, and it started getting really amazing results. And I was so impressed. And she was like, well, I'm very motivated. I have cancer. And I was just like, wow, that, most people don't start doing what they're supposed to do for themselves until the doctor gives them that ultimatum. You either do this or this is the alternative. And if that's what it takes, then so be it. But what I wanted to create is something that is simple and easy, and almost like training wheels, like baby steps. Like, Alice, I'm walking people through this process, and when they get to what they think is the end, which is really the beginning, they're like, well, I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. And that's what we kind of need. We kind of need someone to, it's not babying. It's really, because it's not that easy. It takes, what people don't understand is when you want to detox or cleanse or start anew or whatever, it starts with repentance. And, most people think repentance is, oh, Lord, please forgive me for my sins or whatever. And that's not repentance. Repentance is a change of thought process, a change of heart. So the things that you used to do, you don't desire to do those things no more, because you changed, you really repented. So when you're trying to really heal yourself and cleanse yourself, you're becoming, it's a form of righteousness. You're partaking on, you're taking on. And so my program, when I started writing it, I wrote it for me, and I wrote it for my compadres, just the people in my small area. And then I start seeing, then strangers start coming up to me, and they start doing it, and they start getting results. So I'm just like, man, so I wanted to call it something. And you want to catch a catchy name or whatever. And I like acronyms, but the word right, RITE, start coming, just start, showing up in my life. And I looked up the definition of right, and there's several definitions, but one of the definitions is like a ceremonial way to do something, like a specific way to do something to get a specific result. And I thought that was catchy. And then as a 54-year-old man who's still trying to get himself together, I put the gist in, and I put the two words next to each other, and it said righteous. And I was just like, whoa. And then I started thinking about, when you do the program, the first thing that I wanted to address, because I know that's what drives people, is results. And in this case, weight loss or vanity is what makes people do things. The result that you get is what makes you continue. If somebody tells you to try something, you try it and it doesn't work, you don't keep trying. That's the definition of insanity. So I wanted to give people results. So I created a program that's giving you, a quick, almost, it's not instantaneous, but the first couple of days you get a result. And the first 3 days, I call it clear to clutter, is because you know, when you're trying to go to the mall or you're trying to go somewhere you've never been before, we usually use GPS. And so if you type in, you know, Museum of Arts or whatever, and you've never been there before, well, you have to have your current location in place in order for it to give you the right directions. And when you deal with what's going on with you right now, your current detox, your current, you know, toxins, your current, the stuff that you just ate 2 days ago, you know what I'm saying? The things that are happening with you right now, when you address those before you start a program, you have a better chance of coming out on the other side successful. So I created a program where the first 3 days we're clearing the clutter. And while we're clearing the clutter, taking out the trash, we're replacing or doing an exchange with nutrients. So we're flooding your body with nutrients that most people never even heard of, much less taken before. So you're simultaneously taking out the trash and replacing that garbage with nutrients. And your body's like, hey, I've never really done this before. Well, why are you taking the trash out? Let me start dumping all these heavy metals. And your body starts letting go of things that it's been holding on to, probably because you're stressed out. You're vibrating on a negative frequency because you're full of chemicals and toxins that you weren't born with. So now your body, your soul, your spirit, and your body is not in line, is not harmonious together. But when you start removing those toxins and start putting in the good bacteria to change over your microbiome, then that clarity starts to come, and that focus starts to come. You start thinking different. You look at food totally different, and so I consider that a form of righteousness, and that's why I feel proud to you know, that's like my brand now, because I'm not in a religious way. I think, you know, everything has a process. So we're spiritual beings, you know, in a physical body. So I think, you know, we identify with the physical first. So being a bodybuilder, it was easy for me. I could teach somebody how to lose 10 pounds in 7 days. They're my new best friend. You know what I'm saying? And so now when they start getting that clarity and focus, and then it leads you to that spirituality. So I created that program, and I created it to share with people. And so in the beginning, you know, you get your vanity fix, then you know, your head gets cleared out, but now you have a story. And so now, you know, you take that same experience that you had and start sharing it with others. And then it kind of matriculates and kind of, you know, I call it my 5 loaves and 2 fishes. I wanted to create something that I could create, share, somebody else get the same result or better even, and then they turn around and share it with their fellow man. And it's proven to work tremendously. I've been able to create an incredible passive income by giving away my talents, time, and experience. And so that's how I end up meeting you guys, and that's how, you know, this, you know, former world-class bodybuilder sitting on here with doctors and professionals who do this on a daily basis. And I just feel honored and grateful. And I'm glad that, you know, we're thinking alike, even though we're in totally different worlds, and it's really amazing.
It is amazing. Thank you so much. And Kelly has successfully been able to beat cancer, and she did that working with the doctors and doing a holistic approach, which I think is beautiful.
I think
A
you
lot
gotta
of people
do it
think,
all.
yeah, I think some people think you have to choose, especially being in the Holistic Chamber of Commerce that I'm fighting for. There's only one way, right? But there is a way that, I mean, if we're going to dump the toxins in, we've got to still be able to restore the body, you know, the way it should be. And Toney, thank you so much. And if you want to know more about Toney's program, I can give you information. He can give you information, contact, you know, any of us. I've done this G.R.I.T.System internal transformation system a couple times, and I love it every time. There's just more breakthroughs.
What I want to say is, you know, whatever you're facing, you know what I'm saying, you have to prepare your body for what's next. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of people, you know, I saw her sign all these papers, and it's almost like you're signing the papers and you're telling the doctor, okay, here, you fix me. You know what I'm saying? And they have a job to do, and it's basically, you know, in these 4 corners of the paper. You know, they don't get to go to the left and to the right. They have to stay, what they call a standard method of care or whatever. And I was like, well, my wife needs more than standard method of care. I need exceptional, the best possible care in the world. Me, I'm that type of dude. I've been all over the world. So I took her to Mexico and Florida and Texas and all the places to learn everything about, you know, how to beat this thing and what it really is. I mean, it's an abnormality of yourself. And if you know you're the cause of it, it's easier for you to like deal with it and say, okay, well, let me repent and let me go the other direction. And that's really what my program is about, is just, okay, I'm jacked up, I'm malnourished, I'm unhealthy, I'm whatever it is. Now it's time to fix that. And so once you get the reason why you want to be better, everything falls into place.
Yeah, it fuels the fire. And Dr. Herbert, I just wanted to say, I know she she's integrative in functional medicine, correct? Dr. Bettina Herbert is. And so she'll also work with some of her patients as well to make sure the blood work in the body is ready for the detox. Is that correct? I know she does that, and I know Babette had talked about it as well to really get there. But this system that Toney does is very simple, and it's yeah. So go ahead. I know Jane and you both had comments, so I'm going to allow you guys to go ahead and speak.
Go ahead, Bettina.
No, I was just agreeing with Alice. You go ahead, Jane.
No, I was just saying there's two other great resources that have meant a lot to me and really have to do with what we're talking about here today. And it's one book that was written quite a while ago. It was called Mind Over Medicine, Scientific Proof You Can Heal Yourself by Dr. Lissa Rankin. She's since written other books, but she recommended in 2019, and Alice knows I've recommended to everyone, Dr. Jeffrey Rediger's book called Cured. It's about spontaneous healing and remission. And all of these tomes really come and are really talking about what Dr. Herbert is saying, what Toney is saying, what we're all saying. And we need to look at outliers. It's not about flukes, it's about looking at information so people don't fall just in the averages. We have to look way beyond the averages in order to seek independent care, whatever that means to us, and fortunately, if we have supportive husbands and wives and friends and groups like this, we have the resources to do that. So I think everyone here has a lot of knowledge, but also resources that people can use. So we're all available for anybody who's listening and watching. Don't hesitate to reach out to anybody who said something that maybe resonated with you and that you want to learn more about.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here on this panel. It means so much to me. And this Holistic Chamber of Commerce was born out of the fact that I was on a search similar to what Toney was doing. But when I had my diagnosis for, cancer, it was very, very early stage. But I had already been in the medical wheel. I had been on so many medications. I had, gone down that road before, and I thought there's got to be a different way. My body was created to heal itself. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on. I want it to do what it's created to do, and I want to help it. I obviously have helped create the environment that allowed disease to exist. Now I wanted to create an environment that disease couldn't exist so well, right? And it required a lot of different modalities, and I searched all over the place. I traveled all over the place. The emotional healing, I went to Costa Rica, you know what I mean? And I got away from EMFs, and it was just interesting that when I came back, I'm like, this has to be easier for people. And I know that we have great people nearby, and maybe not some that aren't, that are still joining our chamber here in the Charleston metro area, because we have such a great community of professionals and purpose-driven people that are meant, whose whole meaning is to help people, like Dr. Herbert says, to no longer need her. Like, that's her goal, is to create in you a healthy, knowledgeable patient that you're no longer needing the medical treatment, right? Because we want to create this environment, and all of us have something to offer. And thank you so much for being here. And if you have any questions for any of us on the panel, you can reach out to me or anybody who's here. You can email the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, which is chmetro@holisticchamberofcommerce.com, and we'll be glad to get you in touch with anybody. And if you want to come to a meeting, want to join a panel or join the chamber, then you can do that as well. But I want to thank you all for being here. Toney, I'm going to start again tomorrow, because I'm going on the vanity side of this, because I'm going to travel soon and I want to look good in my bathing suit. So, but honestly, if it's not vanity that gets us, right?
Like I said, I wanted to address that first, because that's how we gauge things. If it, you know what I'm saying. So plus how, my mentor used to tell me, if you feel good, you look good, you do good. So, and it's true. So you wake up every day, if you're feeling great. I'm really getting into my sleep. I'm tracking my sleep with my Apple Watch, because I know how important that is. So gut microbiome, I'm really geeking out on that. And I got to tell you, it's the key to everything. Like literally everything. It blows my mind how certain foods create certain bacteria. And it goes all the way back to when you were born. So if you came through the womb and you were breastfed, you got a leg up on all the people who were C-section and Similac, you know what I'm saying? And and there's other ways to you have to have certain bacteria to be healthy for real. And that's scary when they're killing the microbes in the soil. So that's where we get our probiotics from.
But isn't it amazing that we can still heal? So with all the things that were said, it's just remarkable. So people should feel hopeful that with the right kind of steps, hopefully, if we can get our farming to
and you can start with yourself. We're growing our own stuff now.
Yeah, a lot of advocates, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of resources out there to get a healthy biome, and I know I use specific products that I love, and I love to share as well, and that's fabulous. And I used a greens that was organically farmed, and they do specific soils for specific foods, and that's where I get my greens from. And I mean, it's just amazing, but you have to do the research, and that's what I love about this community right here, is that we have the tools to provide people with what they need and the knowledge that we can share. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you
very
very
much
much.
being with all of you. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you virtually.
Yes, right? Virtually. That's all right. Next month we'll be in person, and we'd love to host a holistic happy hour. Yes, they do exist. And we're going to do that. And Janelle, when she returns, will be doing a wellness walk, and she'll be posting that information as well through the Holistic Chamber. So Toney, we can invite anybody to join you with the cleanse as well, so they can reach out to you, message you directly, or they can message me as well.
Yeah, you
Janelle
can go to,
has done it.
Yep, go to RITEGYST at Gmail, RITEGYST.
Okay, at gmail.com. Perfect. All right, thank you all very much. And this has been
Thank
great.
you,
That
Alice.
was awesome.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Bye.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Likewise.
Bye.
Thanks.